Does the transformed wife say it's okay to kill grandma? Is she out to kill me? Is she's a grandma? Is she out to kill herself? Lori Alexander, the transformed wife, gives advice in her latest video entitled Killing Grandma, which is about reopening the country. What she says echoes what she wrote in a blog a couple of weeks ago. The problem is that the information she gives in it is inaccurate, selfish, and hypocritical. She's more subtle in this video than usual, but I do find it ironic that her whole position is get out of your houses, the opposite of the advice that she's been giving women for years, and that the entire thing is done, as usual, in her kitchen. So let's examine why once again Lori is wrong, inconsistent, and a hypocrite. Let's have a chat. Before we begin, the comment of the day comes from Amiga Nuts, who writes, Your Honor, in the matter of critical thinking and reasoning versus the God character of the Bible, we find the God character guilty of non-existence. Granny, this video is a must-see example of how to recognize the lack of actual evidence. It was awesome. Just my 2 cents worth of brain droppings. Thank you, Amiga Nuts. When I found Lori's video, I thought she was reacting to the divided opinions about reopening the country. Are we doing it too soon? Are we risking a new wave of the coronavirus by reopening before most states have hit the peak? But then I found a blog that she had written on April 28th, in which she says, for the most part, the same thing as she says here. So it's not that Lori thinks that we've sheltered long enough and the time has come to go back to the way things were. Lori never understood what sheltering in place was about to begin with. She takes this selfish, inconsiderate, hypocritical position because she doesn't understand the issues. Not surprising from someone who thinks that education is a waste of time and money, especially for women. Incidentally, Lori's degree is in education. She blogs and makes videos to educate people on why they don't need education. Pot, meat kettle. So anyway, let's see what she says about killing grandma.
Hi. So a lot of people don't want to open up the country and have people go back to work because they don't want to kill grandma. Well, I'm a grandma and I have underlying health conditions. So if I get the virus, it could be deadly for me. But I don't want to close the country down and keep it down just because of me. I feel like the young and the healthy need to get back to work. They can take protective measures. And if I want to go out, like my daughter has been shopping for me every week lately, which is great. I watch your baby. But I had to go in the other day and I wore my mask and social distance.
Okay, she's following guidelines. That's good. She even has her daughter shopping for her. That's good too. I do the same thing. The young are less at risk for this virus, so it is better that we older people take more precautions than what is required by the government. Even during the lockdown, people have been permitted to go out grocery shopping, so Lori is taking more precautions than she is required to. So far, so good.
And did the best I can. And washed my hands when I got home, didn't touch my face, take vitamin E, vitamin C every day. And I do what I can to keep myself healthy. But living in fear and never going outside, not getting sunshine and fresh air and exercise is extremely unhealthy for our health. And
she's not wrong. She's listed more precautions that she's taking because she is at risk. Good. She's trying to protect herself. She says that people need fresh air and exercise. She's right. Under the stay-at-home guidelines, you can do all these things. Our family walks every day through our neighborhood. Walking outside in places that aren't crowded is okay. You can go outside on your balcony or roof if you live in a large city. You can exercise inside or outside if you have a safe place to do so. So yes, you do need this, but you can get it while sheltering in place.
And what it's doing to the economy is atrocious. The young people need to go back to work. Sweden has over 10 million people, and their death count last I count was about 2,600. Michigan has, and Sweden never closed down. Michigan has a little bit under 10 million people, and they have over, last I checked, over 1,000 more deaths than Sweden. And Michigan closed down, and they're still closed down.
And here you see that Lori doesn't understand the problem. She's comparing Michigan to Sweden, and she gives her entire rationale for the comparison that they both have a similar population. She says Sweden has a population of 10 million and that they have 2,600 deaths last she counted. I assume she meant to say check the internet. I doubt that Lori went to Sweden to count the dead. I don't know why she claims to have actually counted, but anyway. She says that Michigan has a slightly lower population, 1,000 more deaths, and Michigan closed and Sweden didn't. Therefore, closing is the problem and it caused more deaths. If you just leave everything in the open, everything will be fine because it is in Sweden. Sorry, Lori. The data you present here doesn't support that conclusion. There are so many problems with this that I'm not even sure where to start. All right, let's start with geography. Lori, I know that you say in your blog that you never learned anything useful in college, so we'll work on your geography here. Michigan is in the United States. Sweden is in Scandinavia. The virus has been spreading faster in some areas of the world than others. We call these hotspots. The hotspots shift as the virus travels around the world. Currently, Scandinavia is not a hotspot. If you compare Sweden to its neighboring countries, you see that it isn't the paragon of health that you claim. Other Scandinavian countries include Denmark, Finland, and Norway, all of which closed to some extent to ward off the spread of the virus. Deaths in Denmark are at 533, Norway 224, and Finland 275. I'm writing this a week after Lori's video came out, and a spike in deaths in Sweden has brought the death toll there to 3,296. The death rate there is 10 times higher than the rest of the region. So no, Lori, everything isn't fine there. If Sweden is an example of anything, it's how bad things would be if we didn't close down. If we were to apply Lori's logic here but reverse it, we would say that not closing down causes the death rate to be 10 times higher. If Michigan hadn't closed down, the death rate there would be over 45,000. But it isn't that simple. There are many factors involved, and closing or not closing a state isn't going to make that state's numbers match a different region with a similar population size. Let's move on.
So from the reason that everyone freaked out, I think the most, is we saw Italy, we saw what it did to Italy, and then we saw what it was doing to New York. I just saw a clip from Governor Cuomo from a month ago saying, what is happening to us is going to happen to all of you in a couple, 2 to 3 weeks. And he was telling us that what was happening to New York was really scary. So we all were really scared that what was happening to New York would indeed happen to all of us. But I never quite believed that. Because
here is the crux of the problem. Lori wasn't convinced that the information she was getting from people who know what they are talking about was accurate. She felt people were trying to scare her and therefore were inflating the danger. To a certain degree, she's right. Many of the figures on the possible death tolls from the virus given to us in the early days seemed outrageously high. But as we have now gone over 82,000 deaths from the virus in just 3 months, it should be painfully obvious that they were right. The experts were scaring us, but they were also right. The idea wasn't to get you to live in fear, but to equip you to handle the cataclysm that was coming. But people like Lori, who don't understand the goal, are spreading disinformation. I am all for free thought and expression of ideas, but too many people who have no idea what they are talking about keep feeding us lies.
The other thing that we bought a tremendous amount of is the hydroxy chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, and there are signs that it works on this, some very strong signs. Okay, so
very quickly, is hydrochloroquine preventative against this virus? Yes or no?
You know, as I've said many times, Margaret, the data are really just at best suggestive. There have been cases that show there may be an effect, and there are others to show there's no effect.
Okay.
And when we get too much disinformation from our country's leaders...
Don't know if you caught the president's COVID-19 briefing yesterday, but medical experts are warning people not to inject themselves with disinfectants after President Trump pondered at last night's White House briefing whether that could be a potential method for fighting the virus.
And then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning?
But let's dig into a bit of what the president said yesterday and how the medical establishment is responding. He talked about the possibility of something like a disinfectant being injected and UV rays going beneath the skin to attack the virus. Where is he getting these ideas from, and how is the medical community reacting?
All right. The briefing got started with this conversation about disinfectants and UV rays when a gentleman, he came up and talked about how emerging studies, that's his direct language, emerging studies within DHS had shown that possibly high temperatures and humidity as well as disinfectant degrade COVID-19. That's where it started. And then the president at the podium, with no prompting other than what he had just heard, went on this conversation about UV rays in the body, in the skin, or some other way. That's almost a direct quote. And then disinfectant. Those are his direct words. He can't pretend, though he might want to, that he didn't say them. He did, prompting immediate reactions across the country, not just from doctors, but from disinfectant companies that said, no, don't ever do this. And
it's no wonder people like Lori don't know what's accurate from what's inaccurate. So who should you listen to? This is a virus. We need to listen to the doctors, and specifically to Dr. Fauci, who has done a beautiful job of walking the fine line between being truthful and not ticking off Trump when Trump is flat out wrong, but Fauci can't say that. But definitely don't listen to Lori. She claims no expertise, and even what little she has to offer is poorly reasoned.
And some states have less than 100 deaths still, and there's about 6 states that never opened up, never closed down, and they're doing fine. So I think that people need to stop worrying about killing grandma. Grandma can stay home, stay quarantined. The sick and the elderly can stay home and do what they can to protect themselves. But I believe the rest of the culture needs to get out and work and get this economy going.
Here, Lori shows she really doesn't get what shelter in place is all about. Yes, it's partly about protecting people from getting the virus, but the primary reason for quarantining is to flatten the curve. Here's Lori's blog from April 28th that further illustrates that she doesn't get it. I was reading some posts for and against reopening the country. One was talking about being selfish, and it got me to thinking, there are those wanting to reopen, and yet they're being classified as selfish. There are those that rely on all kinds of people to supply them, while they cower in fear at home. Isn't that being selfish too? You expect your garbage to be picked up. You expect the grocery store to be open so you can get milk. You expect truck drivers to supply the stores. You expect farmers, meat packers, fruit and vegetable pickers, all to keep food in that grocery store. You expect Amazon to still ship all the things you're ordering while you sit at home shopping. You expect the delivery driver to leave it on your doorstep. You expect your phone to work, your power to stay on, and your mail to show up, rain, shine, or sleet. And most importantly, you expect the doctors and nurses to be there if you need them. Although many of them across the country have been furloughed because their units and services have been shut down while the entire system focuses only on COVID-19. The whole premise of shelter in place is based on the arrogant idea that others must risk their health so you can protect yours. There is nothing virtuous about ignoring the largely invisible army required to allow people to shelter in place. Lori, the whole idea of shelter in place is everyone that can stays home, and only those that must go out. You make it sound like healthcare workers and other essential workers feel taken advantage of by your staying at home. Nothing could be further from the truth. So many have posted signs, memes, videos, TikToks, tweets, every possible media asking those of us who can to please stay home. The fewer of us that are out, the less exposure to everyone that must go out. Although it may not seem like it, the best way you can support essential workers is by staying home. Yes, they are risking their health to protect ours, but let's not make that risk any more difficult for them than it has to be. For all of us to go out because they must go out is like this flock of sheep. Lori says, there are some of you that are screaming mad about what I just said, but stop and think about what is allowing you to stay safe in your home. Lori, take your own advice. Think about the people who must go out and support them by staying home. Lori says, I truly believe that with some common sense on my part, I could easily go back to life as it was. I want to go to restaurants. I want to shop at the little store just up the road, but that isn't selfish, is it? Now we see Lori's true motivation. She just wants to go shopping. Yes, Lori, that is selfish. Not only is it selfish because you aren't considering the increased risk to essential workers from you being out, you also aren't considering the increased work that you create for them if you get sick. You say that you're okay with getting the virus, but if you do, now you need to quarantine away from even your family. You injure them. If you go to the hospital, you take up another bed. You use the hospital resources of masks and protective equipment, maybe a ventilator. You would risk all that just so you can go shopping? Yes, Lori, that is very selfish. Some people are going to get the virus. That is a certain fact. If we all do what we can to protect ourselves so that we prevent as much of the spread as we can, we reserve the precious medical resources and the time and energy of the healthcare workers for those most in need. And yes, I could catch COVID-19. I could also catch the flu or a cold. I could get run over by a bus. I could get struck by lightning. We take risks every day. True. Everything that we do in life has some risk, but that isn't a reason to take unnecessary risk. It should be obvious by now that the risk of death from this virus is exponentially higher than the risk of getting hit by a bus or by lightning. If you choose to stay at home, that is absolutely your choice and freedom to do so. And please don't start screaming at me about how I'll just spread it. Why are you worried? You won't get it because you're staying in your home. No, Lori, not everyone has the freedom to choose to stay home. You going out endangers the people that cannot stay home. So stay home for them. Are you going to shelter in place every time a new strand of the flu happens? I think she meant strain. And no, we don't need to lock down every time there's a new strain of flu. Only when there's one capable of killing 82,000 people in this country in a matter of 3 months. The last time the planet saw a virus this potent was the Spanish flu 100 years ago. So, Lori, a virus of this magnitude only comes about once in a lifetime. Surely you can give up your shopping for a few months to save other people's lives. Perspective, Lori. I absolutely don't want people to die from COVID-19 or anything else. I want people to live. Okay, then stay at home. It's the best thing you can do to help. She concludes the blog, but sheltering in place is not living. Wrong again, Lori. You can live wherever you make a life for yourself. During World War II, Jewish people lived in hiding for years. They were under far greater restriction than we are for a much longer time. So many people are working from home to make the quarantine as rich a time as possible. People who are putting together internet concerts, online workouts, cooking help, entertaining videos, all kinds of things to work together so we can get through this. We can get through this. Lori, the primary aim of the quarantine is to flatten the curve, to slow the spread down. If everyone gets the virus at the same time, the hospitals will be overwhelmed and won't be able to handle the number of patients coming in. We saw it in China, in Italy, and in New York. Patients in hallways of hospitals because there were no more rooms. Churches, parks, and ships being converted into makeshift hospitals. You saw in Wuhan where they had to build more hospitals in a matter of weeks to handle the number of sick people coming in. Then comes the problem of staffing and equipment. Can you not remember just weeks ago when we were talking about having 2 patients share a ventilator? I guess I can't really blame Lori for failing to understand this. Trump didn't get it and made his lack of understanding of the problem quite public.
New York is a bigger deal, but it's going to go also. But I have a feeling that a lot of the numbers that are being said in some areas are just bigger than they're going to be. I don't believe you need 40,000 or 30,000 ventilators.
So, Doctor, I need you to react.
However, here are the facts. So this is not a matter of, well, the data just doesn't tell us. Actually, the data is telling us that some aggressive measures have at least potentially slowed this down. But we're talking, Brian, about slowing this down with still a significant number of cases that need ventilators, hospital beds, and then, as you and I have spoken about before, staff to actually manage those patients. And that's where we're breaking at the seams in New York City.
Because it's just not worth it. Actually, I'm a lot more afraid of the left and the tyrannical nature of the governors than I am.
Tyrannical governors? When Trump didn't understand the medical needs of New York and sent only 400 ventilators, this was Cuomo's response.
New York's governor says FEMA gave the state 400 ventilators. To that, he said this.
What am I going to do with 400 ventilators when I need 30,000? You pick the 26,000 people who are going to die because you only sent 400 ventilators.
The governor...
Hardly the response of a tyrant. Rather, this, plus the medical advisors finally getting through to him, caused Trump to do what he should have done a month earlier. He ordered GM to start making ventilators, and the medical equipment that was needed was finally sent.
Because, for one thing, a lot of us don't have mass transit. We're not packed in like sardines. We're spread out. We drive in our own cars, and nowhere else happened like it did in New York City. Yes, some places like New Jersey, the Metro Center, are bad, but not nearly as bad as New York. New York City is worse by far than any other place in America.
Lori is right that the virus is spreading more slowly in areas with lower populations. But this doesn't mean that these areas are less vulnerable. Areas with lower populations also have fewer hospitals, fewer doctors, and less medical equipment. These areas can become overloaded with patients with just a small outbreak. In New York, we saw the hospitals and medical workers become overwhelmed. We saw the funeral homes and morgues become overwhelmed. To say that it won't happen elsewhere in the country when it already is happening in Michigan, New Jersey, California, in Louisiana is just putting your head in the sand. It's wishful thinking, kind of like this.
Now, the virus that we're talking about having to do, a lot of people think that goes away in April with the heat, as the heat comes in. Typically, that will go away in April. I've spoken to President Xi. They're getting it more and more under control. So I think that's a problem that's going to go away. But when you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero, that's a pretty good job we've done. It's going to disappear. One day, it's like a miracle. It will disappear. And from our shores, it could get worse before it gets better. It could maybe go away. We'll see what happens. You have to be calm. It'll go away. It will go away. Just stay calm. It will go away. We need a little separation until such time as this goes away. It's going to go away. It's going to go away. It will go away. You know it is going away. And it will go away. And we're going to have a great victory. It's going to go away, hopefully at the end of the month. And if not, it hopefully will be soon after that.
But has your thinking on this evolved?
It is going away. I didn't say
Warmed up in
Dave.
April?
I said it's going away, and it is going away.
You were saying things like, I think it's a problem that's going to go away within
Which
a couple
I'm
of
right
days.
about. It will go away. But I think what happens is it's going to go away. This is going to go away. It's going to go. It's going to leave. It's going to be gone. It's going to be eradicated.
Than I am of this virus. This virus will pass. But these tyrannical governors and the left are a lot more scary, what they have planned, and what we see them doing. But we just have...
What do you think they have planned, Lori? Are they making mothers stay at home with their children? How awful! How tyrannical! Oh, wait, no, that's you that says mothers should stay home with their children. So the governors who say to stay home during the pandemic are tyrannical because what? What are they telling you to do that you don't want to do or aren't already doing?
But we just have to remember, women, it is scary and it is really uncertain, but God's in control. We can trust him. Live each day for his glory. Be busy at home, being a wife and mother, and put your trust in him. We know how it all ends, and it ends very good for us. God's a just God, and the evil and the wicked will receive their due. We don't have to worry about that. But
Okay, whatever. You haven't told us anything that you object to that the governors are telling you to do.
But we still need to speak up, I think. If we have any type of a platform or people around us, we can speak truth, what we see happening. People need to be made aware. I think a lot of people are just listening to CNN and living in fear and paranoia. And like my city with 118,000 people has about 55 cases, and that's all it's ever had, no deaths. And a lot of cities around me are like that. And our hospitals are dying on the vine because they're empty. So I think...
Seriously? Your hospitals are dying on the vine? You have gardens where you grow hospitals? I'd like to see what a hospital seed looks like. She does raise a serious problem here, though. Many hospitals and doctors' offices are losing money because people are afraid to go to the doctor for fear of contracting the virus from another patient. And hospitals have stopped doing elective surgeries, which are the major source of their revenue. The federal government has recognized this problem and has issued billions in grants to the healthcare industry to keep it going through the crisis. What would really help is if we had a national healthcare program. Then funding would already be centralized and shifting resources from one area to another would be easier. Everyone would have access to healthcare, not just people who could pay. The United States is the only industrialized country in the world that doesn't provide some form of universal health care to its citizens. Maybe this is what Lori is thinking that leftist governors are trying to push, except national health care has to come from the national government. It can't come from the states.
So I think we need to stop living in fear, live in faith, and pray that the governors, the ones in the blue states like mine, will start letting people go back to work. And those in the red states, that they won't live in fear, that they'll start working and doing their best to protect themselves, and hopefully life will go on and this virus will pass, which I think it will, because all viruses will pass eventually. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
She thinks that blue states need to open and red states need to stop living in fear. Except there isn't a difference in how the virus is being handled that is drawn by clear political lines. There aren't clear political blue states and red states. There are certainly some states that have a long history of leaning a particular direction, but that doesn't define the state. The virus is politically neutral, and our response to it needs to be as well. It's the doctors and scientists that we need to be listening to. That cuts me out too. Seriously, if I tell you how to handle the virus, don't listen to me. But at least I'm pointing you in the right direction, not to the politicians, but to the doctors and scientists. I never did get to why this advice is hypocritical. It's a subtle point, taken from the video as a whole, compared to other things that she has said in the past. In this video, she's clearly okay with endangering her own health and the health of others so that she can go shopping. She says that whatever you do with your own body is your right. However, when it compares to abortion, she sings a completely different tune. In one blog, she writes, "They, babies, require sacrifice. You will sacrifice your body, your time, your independence, your sleep, and your energy, but it's all good. It's God's perfect will for you. All of you young women who are seeking after careers and a paycheck, I encourage you to reevaluate your life. Is deep debt, long hours away from home, working for a boss and a paycheck really worth it?" So why is she now saying that we need to let young people out to work and stimulate the economy? Evidently, staying home and raising children is what God wants when the economy is strong, but when it's weak, then the economy is more important than people's lives? Someone made this argument to me on Facebook, that we need to put the economy before people's lives because if people lose their money, they might become depressed and kill themselves. So losing your money is worse than losing your life or your family. It's funny how Lori says that no one should get an abortion for economic reasons, but they should put their lives at risk to stimulate the economy. I guess the only life that God values is the life of the unborn. They really are pro-birth and not pro-life. After birth, you're on your own. I also get that a lot of people are out of work. People need a way to support their families. Many businesses will never be able to reopen. Many will have to get creative and find a new way to do business. We do need to find a balance. We certainly won't find it listening to Lori. We also need to listen to what the experts are telling us about reopening too soon.
Vaccine.
Even at the top speed we're going, we don't see a vaccine playing in the ability of individuals to get back to school this term. If some areas, cities, states, or what have you, jump over those various checkpoints and prematurely open up, my concern is that we will start to see little spikes that might turn into outbreaks, which in fact, paradoxically, will set you back, not only leading to some suffering and death that could be avoided, but could even set you back on the road to trying to get economic recovery. Talk about, will this virus just disappear? And as I've said publicly many times, that is just not going to happen because it's such a highly transmissible virus.
As much as I respect you, Dr. Fauci, I don't think you're the end all. I don't think you're the one person that gets to make a decision. We can listen to your advice, but there are people on the other side saying there's not going to be a surge and that we can safely open the economy.
I have never made myself out to be the end all and only voice in this. I'm a scientist, a physician, and a public health official. I give advice according to the best scientific evidence. And we really better be very careful, particularly when it comes to children. Because the more and more we learn, we're seeing things about what this virus can do that we didn't see from the studies in China or in Europe.
Do we have the coronavirus contained?
Right now, it depends on what you mean by containment. If you think that we have it completely under control, we don't.
If reopening means undoing everything that we've done, we'll have to start all over. South Korea and China are already seeing new surges in cases. The virus is going to hit a second time in the fall. We need to start bracing for that impact now, not waiting until people are dying to start acting. I'm going to listen to Dr. Fauci and other people who know what they're talking about, not someone who doesn't know the difference between what's going on in Michigan and what's going on in Sweden. I also don't want to join the sheep that are blocking the road to recovery. I'll shelter at home for quite a bit longer because killing Grandma isn't something that I find acceptable. Until then, live your life.